All right, we'll call meeting to order. It is 7:01. All set? Yep. All right. So let's start off with introductions for a new member of our team.
Yep, so I'm happy to introduce you guys. Zach Maya joined us as a development planner. So he's going to be filling a bunch of different roles, but as Lisa Riddle, our long-term zoning administrator, looks to transition out of Colchester at the end of June, he's going to be taking along responsibilities with the Development Review Board on. Occasionally, you're going to see him coming here. Hopefully, I can pull him into some fun stuff. He worked as an intern for us back in 2018 and on the town plan. Some of you may remember. So I don't know. That being said, I'm very happy to have him on our team. And Zach, do you want to feel free to introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, I want to apologize if my connection cuts out because my internet's acting up. It's very bad. But yeah, I was. Thanks for the introduction, Sarah. I'm really happy to be back in Colchester. I was an intern. 2018, got my start in planning, and then I went to Montpelier to work at the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission for a couple of years. I was doing land use planning and assisting municipalities there, much smaller municipalities in Colchester, but I'm really excited to be back and, taking on more of a zoning role. So really, really excited about that. I'm excited to work with you all intermittently as well.
Great, welcome. All right, ready to go for our public comment items not on the agenda. Who do we have? I see Patrick O'Brien.
Zach, nice to have you back while we're waiting.
Thanks. Great to be back.
Hello.
Good evening.
Sorry about that. Are you waiting for me to speak?
Yes, we are.
Okay, sorry about that. Honestly, I have 2 Zoom meetings going because I'm in South Burlington in 5 minutes. And so I had them both on the screen. I had to shut that one off. So thank you very much for your time. My name is Patrick O'Brien. I'm here representing SD Ireland. More specifically, I'd like to talk to you about a project that we have in the Growth Center called Sunderland Farms. We are currently building the infrastructure, and we have a little bit of a snafu with the form-based code wording. As you may know, there is a requirement that the garages be set back from the principal plane of the building, I believe 8 feet. And that poses a big problem when you want to build a triplexes and fourplexes like we are proposing to. And I'm going to show you why in a second. Our buildings are approximately, each unit is approximately 40 feet deep and 28 feet wide to 30 feet wide. And I'm just going to show this to you. I have no idea if you can see it or not. But can you even see that?
So Patrick?
Yes.
We do not allow screen sharing unless it's prearranged ahead of time. So you could turn on your camera and show us a picture of it that way, but
that's okay. That's okay. So because each of you can do this exercise at your desk or at home. So we have units that are basically a box of 40 feet long by 28 feet wide. And in those boxes, we need to fit typically a 12-foot wide garage by 22 feet deep. So if you do math, if you have 40 feet and you take 8 feet off of that, that leaves you 32 feet. Your garage is going to be 22 feet deep, so that takes that basically leaves you with 10 feet of room in the rear of your unit. And so what I would like to to propose is that we reduce that, we do one of two things. We reduce the principal plane of the building setback from 8 feet up to 2 feet, or we get rid of it altogether so we can have a much more functional layout with these units. I know one question could be, well, why can't you make the units bigger? And the reason we don't want to make them bigger is because we want these to be affordable. We want these to be in the $300,000 range or lower. And if we go bigger, we have to ask more money.
Quick question, Patrick. Were you part of this whole process when we did the form base and talked about designing these things a few years ago?
I have been as part of this project, I think, for maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. But I was not here when form-based code was adopted.
And you know the reason why the concern was aesthetics.
Absolutely, 100%. I appreciate the fact that you do not want what I would refer to as snout-nosed garages, a house that has a garage sticking out of it. So I do believe that if you have a garage that is within the principal plane of the building, that aesthetically it can be done very well. I do not like to see garages sticking forward of the principal plane of the building. But I know historically why that was done. And again, it was to gain space behind the garage for more livable space. But I just think if it was equal to or 2 feet setback, that would certainly do the trick.
So it also was, we didn't want boxes things. It wasn't a sticking out point. It was more of a, we don't want big square cubicle, no life, no decent look to it as well. It's a 2 street.
Yep.
And your question of affordability of 300,000 or 350 is, what kind of median income needs to have to live there? I'm just curious if you have that information.
Right now, if the new numbers just came out, right now, if 80% of median income would bring you in at about 70, high 7. Let me back up. If 80% of median income, you would be able to afford a house in the high 200s with today's interest rates. 100% of median income, which is somebody making, a family making, I believe, around $89,000 a year, you'd be able to afford a house at about $350,000 at current interest rates.
So by moving, the closer you move the garages to the front, the less area you'll have to do anything outside in the front as far as sitting. I mean, there's no real backyard from what I understand. 13 feet, correct?
Yeah, some of these there's backyards, but I would you have to keep in mind that if you have a garage set back 8 feet, you still need to bring pavement up to your garage. So one could argue, yes, there would be more room there, but it's going to have to be paved.
You wouldn't think of it more as a cement pad and a small patio for the front of the house?
It could very well be. It could be used for that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Drag your grill and your furniture out of your house and hang out.
Yes, you sure could do that. To me, this is more about the function inside the house.
How many bedrooms are most of these places?
Well, there'll be 2 and/or 3 bedrooms. That's one of the things that this will do is it'll open up the potential for a first floor bedroom.
You've also asked for some change in parking design as well, correct?
Yeah, so really what that is driving at is the request to not have to have a small island every several parking places. And we think that makes sense in areas where you may have like a grocery store, where there's a sea of parking. But in a growth center like this, where in my opinion, I think the town wants to see a lot of density here. And it all boils down to parking. And the town doesn't allow on-street parking, so everything has to go into a parking lot. And if we could have that altered and not have to have that island every several spaces, that's just going to equate to being able to add more units.
So are you thinking if these are family residential places and you have 2 adults and a child, then you should have 1, 2 cars? How many parking spaces per house are you planning on if we allow you to change the parking structure?
Where that would be applicable would be a multifamily buildings, the parking lot for a multifamily building. And that would mean what we're finding is that for our 1-bedroom, most of our 1-bedroom units, it basically boils down to a car and a half. And for our 2-bedroom units, it's usually 2 cars. And at this project, we have a shared parking program, so to speak, because there's going to be a mix of retail, office, and apartments. And so there's a calculation we have to follow. And my point is just that we're going to be able to have more buildable building area if we don't have these islands. So my request really is not to convince you that to approve this tonight, but would really convince you to just put it on your docket so I could come in and talk to you and maybe even bring some fancy pictures and wow you with some numbers.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now you realize we have a supplement coming up and it would be difficult to fit that into the next supplement with the questions we have.
Understood. I would only ask you to do the best you can, nothing more. If you can't fit it in, you can't fit it in.
Correct. I definitely think you should come to the meetings and when you can and show us what you can do.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody's unreasonable. I just think it felt rushed last time.
Right.
In a big project like that, we really want some nice looking stuff out there. You're starting from scratch.
I agree with you 100%, and that's why I'm presenting tonight.
Yeah, I love that idea.
The 20th novel in Patrick O'Brien's seafaring saga is
Go ahead, Sarita.
Oh, yeah. Hi, thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for coming in. It sounds like this is kind of a weighing function against aesthetics. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the functional piece of it. I mean, it sounds like you might be able to have 2 cars, more space inside the home. You know, what other functional,
Norwich, England. It's Norwich Castle.
I forget, I'm losing the word, but aspects of the project. I mean, trust me, I like really nice looking buildings and architecture, but I know Chittenden County is way behind on housing. And, you know, that's a big concern of mine, is the need for housing, workforce housing in Chittenden County and Vermont. So it's, you know, to me, it's a balancing, it's trying to balance, these different considerations of, the need for workforce housing, the functionality of maybe being able to park 2 cars, more space inside, for the homeowner, as opposed to the garage setback. So, I'd like to just hear a little bit more at some point. It doesn't have to be tonight, about just how functional,
Yep.
having your ask be granted. Is it just the 2 car, the 2 car, 2 cars, one in the driveway, one in the garage, and then more space for the homeowner?
To answer your question is yes, and I do look forward to presenting some plans to show you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, Rebecca, anything on that?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing what the plans would look like, and maybe elevations as well. Because, what we see in plan isn't necessarily, we all see the same thing in elevation. Because there's a lot of things that could affect how the garage stands out or it doesn't stand out. So I would look forward to seeing a presentation that we can look at and get a good feel for it.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I can wait for the presentation.
Okay. All right, well, thank you all very much for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right, we'll move on. So now at this time, we need recess as a commission. We do that as a motion.
I'll make motion to recess.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now we'll reconvene as the CRS Public Information Committee at 7:18.
Alrighty, so we did this last year. Last year was a while ago, though. A lot of things happen in between, but so as part of having this CRS program, which we took on and we get credit for from FEMA for administering a bunch of things, for instance, having good standards and regulations about where we allow building and what we allow in the floodplain, to things like educating people about that there's insurance available for people in the floodplain and what their risks are, and making people aware of that. The program for public information is just that. It's really, how are we going to reach out to the public over the course of the year and let people know if there's an event coming up, or how to get flood insurance, just sort of like a knowledge sharing. And so usually in March, we do this because it's a great time. The type of flooding that we have in Colchester is sort of bathtub filling of the lake that you can sort of see coming when there's a high snowpack. There's a lot of rains in April. So if you start with educating people in March about, hey, there are flood risks on the lake, you hopefully get any new owners, and let them know that there's flood insurance available. So that is just it. And in your packets, you had sort of what we've already done this year, which was what we did last year. We put something out in the sun. We put a blast out through our website. We did some stuff on Front Porch Forum. And we used some of our online tools to send emails out to people that had signed up for floodplain listserv. So it's pretty straightforward. We also had to send something out to our repetitive loss property that we have in Colchester, just sort of touching base with them. And that was great. I think we've made some forward movement on that repetitive loss property this year. So education does go a long way. And so it's nice to see now that we're a couple of years in that some of this is working. But this is just sort of an opportunity for the commission. We have to have 2 of these a year. So we'll put one, we'll tack it on to the front end of the 15th of June meeting. But just in case you guys have any comments or concerns or ideas.
I'm personally all set. Go ahead, Sarita.
Well, I just, it was the second time I read through the materials. It seems like, there's a lot of outreach, not requirements, but ideas about how to reach these homeowners. Especially about, I think people are beginning to hear, I don't know if it's happening in Vermont, but people not being told that they're in a floodplain or that there was flooding on the property that they're thinking of buying, even if it's not an identified floodplain. And, the whole issue, I think, of insurance is concerning to me. People like now, not again in Vermont. I don't know if it's going to come our way in terms of the increase or not able to get flood insurance. So that's a concern, but that's not what I want to talk about, because right now that's in the future. But I kind of would like to know, what is the outcome? Like, what is our responsibility to let homeowners who live in a floodplain or the potential of being flooded, what is our responsibility as opposed to emergency management? I'm not really clear on that.
So this has nothing to do with emergency management.
Yep.
Take it a step back from there. So what the CRS program is, FEMA works through with the ISO, which is an insurance group,
Yep.
To say to communities, hey, you might want to consider this program. And if you join it, and if you meet the thresholds and there are points given to different things, then people in your community are qualified for lower
Right.
insurance rates. And also, if you have a declared disaster in the state of Vermont, you get reimbursed at the highest level. And so what we get points for are things like having strict regulations, allowing no new construction in the floodplain. These sorts of educational outreach components. Things like one of my endorsement is a certified floodplain manager. I am one, and I believe Karen Adams in Public Works still is one as well. When she was at their department, she got that. And that's that you can talk to people and read floodplain maps. And so when people come in and say, hey, I'm concerned buying this home, can you tell me if it's in the floodplain? That's a service that we can provide. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things that we get credit for. So that's a CRS program, not emergency management. But in terms of what you said about obligations and responsibilities, so the planning commissions work on regulations, having good regulations in place that say things like our regulations do right now, which is no new home construction in the floodplain. And if you have substantial damage, your building gets damaged more than 50% of its value, or you decide to add on to it, your existing building, is you have to flood proof it. You have to raise it 1 or 2 feet above that flood level. And there are flood proofing techniques, which basically latch things on piers, ratchet down propane tanks so they don't float away. Those sorts of things that we work with people to let them know about. So that's a little bit about what planning commission's role is with those regulations, what this committee's role is for public information, and how it sort of feeds into that bigger picture of making Colchester a safer place long term, and that this has incrementally helped. Colchester is doing really well compared to a lot of other communities nationwide, because what we have in the floodplain tends to be mostly summer seasonals. Mm-hmm. So it's great having a email list that you can let homeowners that don't necessarily know in the area that there's a flood coming, secure their items. And most of the times we've been very fortunate when we have had flooding, it's been in the early spring before you had the summer seasonal residents moving in. So those are a lot of things that we have going for us. And I think if we stay this course, we'll be even better over the years, and hopefully people will become more knowledgeable and make good decisions for themselves.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Yep.
Yeah, I have a question. So doing this twice a year and kind of massaging this this program here, would we get a different classification so that homeowners even get more of a reduction, or just
I was just on the cusp this past year? We got our cycle visit, and I was just a few points away from becoming that next grade. So I'm hopeful. There's, like with any federal stuff, they are constantly redoing their point system, And so I'm hopeful that the next time we get evaluated, that we will, just because they're trying to catch up to some of the things that they've been promoting, like this. And so hopefully, just by continuing to do what we do with their changes to their system, we'll get that next level. And that better levels you get, the more discount people can get on their flood insurance.
Great. Anybody else got anything on that one? Nope. All set? All right. We will need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we will be reconvening as a planning commission. It is now 7:27. Pretty simple. Minutes of our meeting. Need a motion to approve.
I'll
I'll
make a
make a
motion.
motion. Go
There you
ahead,
go.
Bob.
I'll
Go ahead,
second.
Bob. Go ahead. Go for it.
You're on it. You do a good job with those.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the last meeting.
There you go.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we're on to our packet information.
Not a whole lot there. Yeah, the monthly report, you know, from South Burlington. But I think I wanted to also talk about future meetings, but does anybody have any questions for me on the packet information?
Well, on the South Burlington, I mean, it's a lengthy thing. I just kind of read the summary. But do you take a look at it to see if it affects us in any way?
Yeah, and no, it doesn't
Okay.
really.
All right.
All right.
So with that being said, future meetings. So you have on June 15th, your future meeting for the supplement 43. And we'll also do the second public information committee meeting that should hopefully be even shorter than this one. We'll just tack it in. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about was East Lakeshore Drive and what your thoughts are on potentially restarting some of that. You guys had done some work last winter, back in February of 2020, on sort of briefing yourselves with some of the background on it. And I think we're looking to sort of use LS1 and LS2 as a template to use for an LS3 and LS4. You had some questions about setbacks, particularly front yard setbacks and those type of things, but I don't know if potentially on June 15th, I could give you some information about sort of touching on all that again. Maybe that's a summer project.
I think if we
I
can
think we
meet,
pushed,
go ahead.
I think we pushed it off for a little bit due to everything that's going on. Now that we can meet in person, makes sense to try to get it done at a good time frame. I'd be willing to go over things again on June 15th, kind of just touch base, refresh everybody's mind because it's been a while. And maybe, are we going to go back to meetings every 2 weeks?
So that's a good question. So my department is going to be by July 1st, myself, Zach, and Denise Johnson-Turk. So I have 3 people in my department, which used to have 6. So we're a little bit short right now. And I'd love to keep you guys going as much as possible and get East Lakeshore Drive done. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a stretch. We'll see how much heavy lifting. We are small but mighty. And as I said, I'm very excited. Zach's been a great ad. He's very energetic. So here's me saying I can't make any promises, but I'll do what I can.
More than understandable. I didn't realize you had shrunk that much that fast. Sorry to hear that.
So hopefully our goal will be try to meeting in person. Even if we do it once, it would be a lot more efficient. That would be I think that would be our biggest goal. Then we could definitely touch on East Lakeshore Drive. Any other thoughts on that one?
Oh, I agree. I'd like to see a recap. It's been a while.
So
Where we
you're-
left off.
Your June 15th meeting is warned for Zoom. I think there's a potential that we could actually have you meet in that room and still keep the Zoom invite, because right now what the select board's doing is they're having the public come in via Zoom, but they are all in the Outer Bay conference room together. So if you wanted to, we could look to have that June 15th meeting in person.
Let's plan on it, I would think. I wouldn't see why we wouldn't. It would make life a little easier and get it done.
Let's do it.
Yep.
That'll be good.
Is there any way we could get an update on the septic, the wastewater situation on East Lake Shore Drive with all the new construction? I'm just wondering, are things under control, or is it still, a concern about failing systems or future failing systems? Again,
So-
not now, but I mean, I'm just like wondering about that.
So I'll provide a recap maybe on the 15th that will go over, I think you guys were all involved in the MBI project, but we can talk about that too, because I think one of the key things with looking at picking up that East Lakeshore Drive piece is I think, heard from the community of a lot of different issues with East Lakeshore Drive, from everything from bike ped to people at speed to wastewater. But I think this is going to be, the commission's focus is just on the zoning. And so I think it will be useful to sort of touch upon some of all what was heard. But I think the key thing with this is to keep the ship on course. It's going to be, there's that bigger picture, but this is just zoning.
All right.
And do you know, Sarah, I'm just gonna hold this up, well, you can't see, it's a summit on the future of Vermont. It's May 26th and 27th. It's from 1 to 5 every day. It's being offered by the Vermont Council on Rural Development. If you go to futuresofvermont.org/summit, if you want, if anybody wanted to go to that, it's just gonna be a lot of workshops about the future of Vermont. And what Vermonters want, how they want to see the state evolve and grow, especially with, I think, a lot of this money, this one-time funding that's coming in. It's good timing. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. Do you know about that, Sarah, right? About
Yeah, it
that
sounds
stuff?
great. I wish I had time.
Yeah, no, but I don't know if anybody else is. I'll be going to it, but I just thought it's a really good idea.
Yep. All right. We all good?
Okay, thank
Any more
you.
questions? Yep. Need a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you again.
I told Zach after the 4 hours of DRB that this would be quick. You guys are good, so.
Jack, it really is nice to see you back. And I remember working with you. You always did a great job for us. Appreciate you.
Yeah, welcome
you.
back, Zach.
Yep.